Don't Starve is a survival game where the objective is to survive and don't starve. So today I thought I would try and survive 100 days in Don't Starve, and here is how it went. I decided to choose the character of Willow since I didn't really have many choices, and Willow is immune to fire damage, and she also gains sanity while standing next to a fire, so I thought she would be quite a useful character to pick. We start by waking up on a strange island and being greeted by a strange man. He tells us not to starve, and straight away we get up and start exploring. There's a lot to do at the beginning of Don't Starve, so we spent day 1 looking around for resources we could gather to create a base. Whilst looking around for resources, we came across a touchstone on day 1. Touchstones are essentially a revive point, so if you die you will respawn at the touchstone. This was extremely lucky to find on day 1, as these can be quite hard to find and essentially guarantee that we get a second chance if we make any mistakes later on in the run. Next, we crafted a pickaxe so we can gather some stone around the land to build a fireplace. Towards the end of day 1 we came across a savanna biome which is home to many things such as beefaloes. Beefaloes come very handy in the world of Don't Starve as they can be used as early game protection as well as early game materials for times such as winter. Willow comes with her own special lighter which will never put out but generates only a small amount of light. We used this to explore during the night of day 1, so we wanted to find the perfect place to set up a base. We came across this weird ritual area that had these aggressive pigs as well as a lot of grass, and they would not let me go near their stuff, so I kept my distance for now. I found a cobblestone road which tends to lead to a pig village which will also have a chance of spawning in the Pig King. The Pig King is a very useful person as he will trade us gold for any scrap items we find later on in the game. At the start of day 2 we came across our first swamp biome. We do not want to go into these biomes as they are very dangerous and just full of things that want to kill me. But after following the cobblestone road we did come across a pig village. There was no Pig King in this village, but there were a lot of berry bushes which we was able to use, so we had food sorted now for the next few days. Towards the end of day 2 I decided to go back down the cobblestone path, and funnily enough we came across another pig village which did have the Pig King, so this was just pure luck. And the night time of day 2 was yet again spent with my lighter just exploring the world for a perfect base location. On day 3 we came across this weird ritual site which was home to the gnome ornament as well as a thing called a box thing. This is for something later on in the game and how to actually end the game, but the gnome was used to trade with the Pig King for gold. I also found a rocky biome which had all the gold that I needed, as well as the tall bird things with a massive eye, so we did not want to get close to them or their nest. And by the night time of day 3 I decided where I wanted to build my base and built my first fire pit. By day 4 I built a science machine, which is the first step to unlocking the recipes to build other things that's useful for survival. You have to stand near the science machine in order to unlock these recipes, but once you have learnt them you do not need to stand near it to make any of the same in the future. And the rest of day 4 was spent cleaning out my base and removing all of the tree stumps as well as placing down my first chest. On day 5 I decided to make a lightning rod. The lightning rod will make it so when it's raining and lightning is striking it will always hit the rod and not hit anywhere else in my base, as this could cause a fire and burn everything to the ground. And for the rest of day 5 I went and chopped down some trees to gather some wood so I could make a second chest for more storage. However, during the night of day 5 we started getting this weird barking sound as my character expressed to show yourself, and in the morning of day 6 we got attacked by a dog which I quickly disposed of. And for the rest of day 6 I spent it exploring the map so I could fill it out a little bit more as well as see what else is around my base. This also continued for all of day 7, but I also went and collected some more stone for the base. I know this seems to be moving pretty fast paced, but an entire day night cycle in Don't Starve is 8 minutes of real time, so the days do fly by, as once you set off exploring you barely have any time left in the day. But for day 8 I had returned back to my base and wanted to make an alchemy engine. The alchemy engine is basically a science machine but better, and it allows you to learn more recipes for more advanced things. And the remainder of day 8 was spent collecting some more resources such as grass and twigs. In Don't Starve you can never have enough resources as it always seems like you're constantly running low on everything, so a large portion of the game is spent farming and collecting supplies. At the start of day 9 we went back and paid the beefalo a visit and decided to take their manure. Manure is used for many things in Don't Starve, but mainly for fertilising your crops. It can also be used to create farms as well for growing more unique crops, which will be used later on in the run. With the manure, I created 2 farms, which is now going to allow us to grow vegetables and fruits you couldn't normally find in the world. I also decided to jump into this wormhole which I found earlier on in the run. Wormholes are essentially teleportation devices, so there will always be 2 wormholes which connect within the world. So this wormhole allowed me to travel a great distance without having to actually run it. I spent the day and night of day 9 exploring this biome, and the night time of day 9 was actually a full moon. So full moons make it so you can see and you don't need a light source, since the moon is actually lighting the place up. And within this biome specifically, there is a statue that spawns, and there is a creature that's called Glommer. Now, this world was actually glitched, which I found out later on in the run by one of my viewers, but it had broken generation, so this statue actually never spawned, which is very unlucky because it is a guaranteed spawn, but I 100% did not get it. And this broken world generation is actually going to have a massive impact on the world later on. So halfway through day 10, I returned to my base as I was not finding this statue, because at the time I thought it was still there. And I decided to go back to my respawn point, the touchstone, with a hammer. You can actually hammer these heads on the sticks to get some useful resources such as pigskin. Pigskin is used for important things such as umbrellas and football helmets, which give you more protection from things such as rain and fighting. And as day 10 was getting closer to night, I actually decided to explore this second wormhole I found earlier on in the run right next to my spawn. And this wormhole brought me to an island off by itself with nothing on it. And this again is due to broken world generation. This is not meant to happen. So I had my own little island where nothing spawned on it and it was completely safe. And having this island on its own gave me many ideas for what I could do with it in the future. For day 11, I returned to my base and burnt down some trees to get some charcoal. Charcoal is used for many things again, but what we wanted was a crockpot. Crockpots allows you to mix and match food together to make unique recipes which give unique bonuses. We explored this rocky biome and came across a marble sculpture area. There was nothing here but a bit of marble pillars, and destroying these gave us the marble resource, which is used for later on in the run by creating things such as marble armor. We also came across our second endgame item, which is the crank thing. Similar to the box thing, it is used for making the ending of the game. For day 12, I made a football helmet and again went to explore in this rocky biome just to finish off on my map and have it all fully explored. By day 13, we had completing mapping out the rocky biome, and I decided to then map out other parts of the map above my base. Doing this took all of day 13, so by the time day 14 rolled around, we had went back to base. For day 14, we made our first rabbit trap so we can start collecting meat, as well as sorted out collecting crops from our farm. Hunger was starting to become a problem, so I made more rabbit traps to catch more meat to make more meatballs, as meatballs is one of the best foods for hunger. We actually started starving at one point in day 15, so I was very desperate to get these meatballs done. The rest of day 15 was spent chopping down some trees and making another chest, as well as sorting out my inventory. On day 16, we had another dog attack due, so I ran away from base to start exploring more of the map as well as get the dogs away from my base. And after taking care of the dogs, I went into the swamp biome to explore some more. I came across a spider's nest, and spiders are actually very important to the game as it's where we get our web, and webs are used for many things in the game. And hitting the nest spawned this yellow spider, and he was significantly harder than the normal black spiders, being able to jump as well as having more health and doing more damage. After taking care of all the spiders, we destroyed the nest to get quite a bit of silk. Nighttime was now approaching and I did not want to get caught in the night in the swamp, so I returned back to base. On day 17, I continued exploring the map and found another wormhole. This wormhole had brought me to a wormhole I had already found in a previous day, so I jumped right back into it. On the night of day 17, I was getting chased by spiders and I had no light, so I thought I would set a tree on fire since Willow cannot take fire damage, just to light up my surroundings and see what was going on, and I may have accidentally started a huge forest fire and burnt down half of my forest. So on the morning of day 18, we went to inspect the damage and came across an item called Weber's Skull. This will come important later on in the run, but for now I did not know what to do with it. Now this is one of two instances where I lost the save footage, so I do not have any footage for the night of day 18 as well as all of day 19. But moving on to day 20, my character started to freeze. Freezing is a mechanic that happens during winter time, so this meant that winter was approaching. For the night of day 20, I spent it sitting next to my fire to keep my character warm, as well as cooking some food in preparation for the next dogfight which was about to begin. For day 21 we started it off with the dog attack, and this is the first time that we've seen a dog variant. So there are two dog variants during the dog attacks. There's the winter hounds, which generate ice upon death, and then there are the fire hounds during summer, which will set things on fire when they die. As you progress through the days, the dog attacks progressively get harder and harder by more dogs spawning, but this time we had our armor and spear and was right next to our base, so this wasn't really a difficult one. And for the remainder of day 21, we made some rabbit earmuffs to try and keep our character warm, as well as making an umbrella to stop the rain from making us cold. The rain mechanic works in this game by making things waterlogged, including your items and the character itself. The more waterlogged you are, the easier it is to get cooled and therefore die. And during the night time, I just did some inventory management and stayed near the fire. For day 22, I went to bury Weber's skull, which was found earlier on in the run, and this will give us access to the character Weber. However, I did not know that by doing this you will spawn many spiders, but this was okay because we actually needed silk for making a beefalo hat to keep us warm, so it all worked out in the end. Running back to the base after this attack, we actually started to freeze and slowly take tick damage. This means that if you do not keep on top of your warmth during winter, you could very quickly die from cold. And for the night of day 22, we made a thermal stone. Thermal stones are very useful for summer and winters as they actually can be warmed up or cooled down and then held by your character to try and maintain that temperature. So for winter we kept it next to the fire to heat the stone up and then carried it with us away from base. And for day 23, I wanted to make a beefalo hat to keep us warm. I made some shears and headed off to the beefalo. However, the beefalo were in red bum season, and during this season you do not want to mess with them because they are aggressive on sight, so we'll have to come back at another date. And for the remainder of day 23, we did some base upgrades by gathering more grass and twigs to have readily available next to the base. On day 24, we started to have penguins spawn, and they just kind of make themselves home into your world. They're very cute. I gathered some more grass to put near my base, but the problem was during winter I kept on freezing because Willow is actually disadvantaged in winter since she freezes easier and it's harder to keep her warm. So I kept having to constantly stop to set things on fire to try and keep myself warm. So day 24 was not very productive. The beefalos were no longer angry with me, so I wanted to try and get their fur to make a winter hat which would allow me to further venture away from base, but I couldn't figure out how to shave them because I needed to have them distracted. So I made a salt lick in the hopes that that would keep them distracted whilst I shaved them, but for some reason this didn't seem to work even though they seemed pretty distracted with that salt lick. However, I eventually figured out that you had to shave them in their sleep. Oh, I bet you do it whilst they're asleep. Okay, well they got a salt lick for free. And so on the night of day 24, we went and shaved a bunch of innocent sleeping beefalo during winter. Yeah, that's kind of messed up. But I began to freeze whilst doing it, so I had to build an emergency fire to keep myself warm. We camped next to the beefalos for all of night 24, and by day 25 returned to the base and finally made our winter hat. For day 25 we were running out of green mushrooms, which were a really good sanity source. So I went to go collect some more green mushrooms from the swamp biome. However, I noticed along the way that I was still freezing despite having the frost hat. So all it did was reduce how long it took before I started to take freeze damage and did not completely negate it. And on the night of day 25, it was another full moon as we sorted out our inventory and kept warm. Day 25 started off with another dog attack, and again this is another Frosthound spawning. They're not too bad because we were stood next to a fire and could stay warm, but if they catch you out in the wild and you couldn't stay warm, it's a very easy way to freeze and die. I also made a bird nest as well as making a bird trap so we can start getting some eggs from a bird. Eggs are very useful because it's a key component for an early game healing food called pierogi. However, for the bird trap to work, we needed to bait it with a seed, so all of night 26 was spent looking for a seed, but I actually couldn't find one. It wasn't until the morning of day 27 when I finally came across a seed. However, as I returned to base with my seed to finally catch a bird, it turns out that I already somehow caught a bird without baiting the trap, so we now had a new friend, a crow. We fed our new crow friend some food to get some eggs and made our first pierogi. Pierogi requires 1 vegetable, 1 filler, 1 meat and 1 egg. And pierogi is quite a good early game healing food as it heals for 30. And as night drew closer on day 27, I decided to chop down some of the trees that I planted earlier. However, I didn't know that tree stumps could set on fire, so When setting a dead tree on fire, I accidentally burnt down a lot of my wood resource, which was not very fun. And for the nighttime of day 27, I built these stone walls because I originally planned to encase my base in stone walls to keep it protected, but I never really went anywhere with it, so I just had this cool stone wall separation. And all of day 28 was spent exploring the area again where the Glommer statue should have spawned, and again I did not find it. However, on day 29 I came across this weird area that had these robot horses as well as gears, and I was actually looking for gears because I needed to make a refrigerator to keep my food fresh. And I also came across my first koalaphant. Koalaphants can be very useful as they can be used to craft winter items to keep my character even more warm. And after an anticlimactic battle, we slayed the koalaphant and received its trunk. I then went back to fight these weird robot horses to collect the gears, and then returned to base to drop off everything that was in my inventory as well as craft my first refrigerator. On day 30 I went to go pay the penguins a visit as they have made ice near my base, and ice can be used in crockpot recipes as a filler, so it is a very cheap resource to use when making recipes in the crockpot. And for the remainder of day 30 I went to go get some more silk from a local spider nest. And whilst exploring on day 31 I started to get this weird breathing sound in my ear. Right now actually. There you go, it's removed. Oh, what is that sound? It said it. Okay. And come the night of day 31, I would find that this would be my first boss fight. Oh my god. Dude. What do I do? Oh my god, oh my god. Now this is Deerclops. Deerclops is the winter boss fight in Don't Starve Reign of Giants. So there are 4 seasonal boss fights, 1 boss for each season. So you don't get a boss fight in the first season you spawn in, since it would be quite unfair. So since winter was my second season, my first boss was the Deerclops. Now Deerclops decided that he wanted to spawn during the nighttime, so I couldn't really fight him as I didn't want to go near my base because he could destroy it. So I decided to kite him during the night till the daytime. So it turns out that Deerclops has a very short attention span, so after running around during the night of day 31, he decided to leave me alone on the morning of day 32, so this allowed me to go back to my base without him following me and prepare for the fight. For all of day 32, it was spent at my base preparing for the boss fight. I healed my health back to full health, as well as making some excess healing food, as well as also making a Hambat, which is a very good weapon that's based on food freshness and not durability. So the weapon is more effective the fresher it is, and as it starts to spoil, it gets worse. This brought me all the way to day 33, where we had another dog attack due, but since I was already preparing for a fight with the boss fight, these dogs were not really any match for my armor and Hambat. However, during the dog attack, they actually broke my log armor, so I had to spend the day of day 33 getting some more wood so I could replace my log armor. And for all of day 33 and 34, I spent it just preparing for the boss fight. So this was making healing food, making armor, and just making sure I've generally got everything for this boss fight, as if I died to this boss, this could be the end of the entire run. And on day 35, I finally felt ready to take on my first boss for this run. So the main technique of fighting enemies in Don't Starve is to get a few hits in and run away to dodge their attacks and then repeat. However, Deerclops has a special ability where he will drain your sanity just by being near him by a lot. So very quickly into this fight, I became insane. And becoming insane in Don't Starve is not great because you will start to have these shadow creatures spawn in, and the more insane you get, the more often you see them. But once you reach a certain level of insanity, which tends to be 40 and below, they will actually spawn in physically and attack you. So now not only did I have to worry about fighting a boss, but I then also had to worry about these shadow creatures attacking me at the same time. This made the boss fight a lot harder than it should have been. On top of that, my helmet and my chest piece had also broken, so I had no armor. But luckily, due to all the preparation that I spent before this boss fight, I had a lot of healing food, so keeping my health topped up wasn't really an issue. And eventually I managed to defeat the boss with my Hambat. However, I now had no sanity and no armor, and nighttime was quickly approaching, so it was not a great state, but I managed to kill one of the shadow creatures, and at the time I didn't realize that killing this specific shadow creature would give me 50 sanity back. So by doing this, I actually stopped being insane and therefore stopped getting attacked by the shadow creatures, so this actually came very clutch in the end. And for defeating the Deerclops, we get its eyeball as a reward, and this eyeball is going to come very useful later on in the run. So every boss has a unique drop, and then with that unique drop you can make a unique item from it, and you'll see later on what we use this eyeball to make. However, my victory was short-lived, as soon later my base burnt down. What magic can I make with that? Oh, what is that? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! What just happened? What? No. And this, unfortunately, is not the first time it's going to happen. So Willow, because she's immune to fire, she really likes fire. And when her sanity gets to a certain point below a threshold, she will start randomly lighting fires to keep herself sane and warm. And Willow thought it was a very good time to light a fire inside my base. So after defeating the Dacrops, I sat and watched all of my hours of hard work burn to nothing but ash. So after watching all of my hard work go down in flames, day 36 had begun. This was the end of winter and the start of spring season, and instead of having to deal with being cold from the winter, spring season brings a lot of rain. Now rain, as mentioned earlier, can create a waterlogged status effect, which can also make you freeze as well as make your tools less effective. So now this was a new issue that I had to deal with. So on day 36, I set off to start collecting the resources to create everything that I had just lost. And for the night time of day 36, I destroyed the burnt down pieces of equipment and get ready to replace them. Day 37, I started by making my first chest again, as I need to start putting some of the stuff that was on the floor inside the chest just to ensure that I wouldn't lose anything. And for the remainder of day 37, I made another chest as well as kept on top of my hunger as I was beginning to starve again. And on the morning of day 38, I'd set out to chop some more trees and collect wood in order to start making everything again. And towards the night of day 38, I had finally made my alchemy engine. I set out on day 39 and found the holy floating grass. Now, I'm not superstitious or anything, but this floating holy grass gave me hope. Gave me hope that it was looking good, looking brighter in the future. Definitely not another example of broken world generation or anything. I was looking for some bone shards as I needed to create the eye umbrella to deal with the spring's rain. So I explored this rocky biome, but I could not find any bones, so I returned to base and collected some of my resources as well as made some more food. And for day 40, I made a trip down to the Pig King to trade some of my useless stuff for gold, and another dog attack happened. However, I kindly asked for the help of the pig villagers to deal with them for me, and they did. After the dog attack, I wanted to fill out more of the map and explore, as I was still missing important things such as bone shards, as well as the Glommer statue that I still had thought was in this world somewhere. So after camping out for the night of day 40, I set out on day 41 to go find what the world had to offer. I came across a desert biome which was home to the bone shards, so I finally found the bone shards, as well as later on in the night finding a second touchstone which meant another respawn point. However, as I found it, it just so happened to be a full moon, and when hammering the pig heads, you actually get nightmare fuel because of a full moon. So after hammering the pig heads, it was now day 42. I continued exploring, but I didn't want to explore the desert biome since it was home to many dog bases and I did not want to get into any fights at the moment. I came across a totally normal tree and after chopping it down got some living logs. I don't think this tree is totally normal, and I don't think the logs are meant to be alive, but who knows. After exploring a little bit more, I came across this field that was filled with beehives and came across a eye bone. Now the eye bone is arguably one of the best things to find in any Don't Starve world, as this will spawn in Chester. Chester is a very lovable companion that will follow you around as long as you have the eye bone equipped. He essentially is a portable chest. So with my new companion, me and Chester set out to explore more of the world. We came across this massive marble structure that had many of the mechanical beasts, including this massive mechanical rhino, and this actually had a little shrine in the middle which turned out to be the portal to finish the game. Now this is what we was collecting earlier on, the box thing and the crank thing. These are what you put the items into to create the portal to end the game. There were still 2 more that we were missing up until this point, so this is going to be an area that we'll return to into the future. So after marking that on my map, I set off to return to base. I decided to take the risky move of running through the desert during a full moon nighttime and got chased by many dogs, but luckily you can just outrun them, so it wasn't too much of an issue. And on day 43, I spent it exploring more of the map and just trying to map it out in general, and came across a skeleton who so very generously let me borrow some of his bones. And day 44 was spent just exploring the swamp biome, and I came across this weird merm creature. It was like a giant frog creature thing. They were very hostile, so I just let them do their own thing. But eventually I came across this weird eye creature thing. There was many of these eyes on the floor that would bite you when you got near them. And these actually had spawned next to the Pig King in the pig village, so these were definitely not there before. Turns out one of my viewers in my chat told me to kill the big plant in the middle that was causing them to spawn, so after I destroyed that, all of the eyeballs despawned. I returned to base and spent the night of day 44 fighting off this hand creature which really wanted my fire. On day 45 our farms had produced dragon fruit. Dragon fruit is one of the best healing items in the game, as if you combine it with 3 sticks in the crock pot you will make dragon pie, extremely cheap and really good healing. We're able to maintain this by giving a dragon fruit to a bird in a cage, and there is a chance that it can drop more than 1 seed. By doing this method we could essentially guarantee that we have unlimited dragon fruits growing. I planted some more twigs and harvested my grass, and then set off to go get some more manure from the beefaloes. However, it was red bum season again, so they were not too happy to see me. I spent the night of day 45 by my base cooking up some food ready for day 46. I spent day 46 collecting some resources, sorting out my inventory and also getting some food. And right before night time of day 46 I went into my very first cave. The plan was simple. We needed more manure to create more farms as well as fertilise our crop. The beefaloes were in red bum season, so they were not very reliable to try and get manure. However, there was a second way to get more manure in the game, but for this method this meant having to venture into the deep caves. We were looking for a biome which spawned light bulbs, a plant that grows underground. We ran into these rock lobsters which are actually friendly and very good allies, as giving them 1 rock will make them follow you and fight for you. We very quickly found the light bulbs that we were looking for, but not without any danger, since there were some bats attacking us, as well as it raining in the caves for some reason, which was increasing our sanity drain, so we just needed to get in and get out. After collecting enough light bulbs I went back to the surface and returned to my base. However, my sanity had drained quite a bit from being in the caves as well as being wet, and upon returning to base this happened. Okay, we've got log armor there. This can go here. Now let's see in terms of light. No, 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 not again, not again, please, please, no! Oh, Willow! No, no! To make matters worse, a dog attack was due, and I was very underprepared for this dog attack. I didn't have a handbat, so I had to rely on the spear, which isn't great, but on top of that, there were many dogs in this dog attack. I ended up having to run down to the aggressive pigs in their little ritual area to use them to fight the dogs. After the dog attack, I returned to my base to review the damage and hammer down anything that was burnt to build another chest and scavenge from anything that survived the fire. And day 49 was spent collecting resources to make another alchemy engine, and then with the alchemy engine I was able to learn the schematic to a ice flingomatic. An ice flingomatic is basically what we needed this entire time, because it will put out any fires that is within its vicinity. So all the times that we accidentally set fire to the base, it would have put them fires out immediately and prevented me from burning down my base twice. However, with it putting out all fires, this also includes my campfire, and we wrap up the night of day 49 with complete darkness. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave part 1 for this 100 days of surviving in Don't Starve. It was an eventful first 50 days, but with winter out of the way, we now have to get ready for summer, which is arguably a lot worse than winter. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this series, and hopefully I will see you in part 2.